You know, life is kind of funny sometimes. It's funny how things will pop up and then all of a sudden they're either everywhere or a great example takes place and sort of falls right into your lap. I'll explain. Last night during a coverkillernation live stream right here on YouTube, somebody in the chat asks a very, very good question, asks for recommendations for death metal bands and albums that are sort of a similar veneer of death, either that or some of that old school, death metal that has a little bit of progression, some jazz, maybe something similar to like an Atheist, whatever it may be. And there were some great recommendations given by everybody involved, but we now have another one that can be offered for that individual. So if you're out there, hope that you'll take this recommendation. The band's name is Contrarian, and it features and boasts the efforts of George from Nile on drums, along with a very capable cast of terrific musicians. The name of the album is To Perceive Is to Suffer, and that's the first thing that immediately makes you think of the band Death. You think of To Forgive Is to Suffer off of The Sound of Perseverance, or at least I know that I did. But does it share that similar nomenclature? Is it sort of cut from the same mold? And immediately, whenever you first hear this, you'll notice, well, yes, it is. This is death metal that has those very harsh and sometimes oft-times vocals that will remind you a lot of what Chuck was able to deliver during the middle portion of Death's career and even toward the latter eras, sort of using that very strange overall songwriting skill or song construction and putting the vocals around it in order to really boast something very philosophical. In fact, that's one of the main features lyrically for this album, is that of philosophy, and you perhaps can really attain that idea just by considering the option of to perceive is to suffer. And this is something that is really offset by just wild bass playing that is very audible. So this is not one where the bass is going to sort of linger in the background and maybe be something that you only hear very casually, and if you listen very closely, it's going to have an area of prominence. The mix of this disc is such that every instrument really has the opportunity to sort of be at the forefront and in the foreground, as opposed to just being sort of in the background. And based off of that, the drumming also shines forward as well. It's something where keeping up with some of these awkward transitions is not always easy. It does require somebody that has some terrific skill. So George was a great pick for this mold. And you get this with songs such as Memory Eternal, which are able to do that, and then sliding into a shorter track entitled Dreams to Slumber, or Dreams at Slumber, should I say. This is just a great way in order to transition further into what the second half of this disc is able to really employ. Now, within those, vocals, you're going to hear it's a little bit rough, a little bit of a gruff pattern. And for those who are a little bit more accustomed to some of the cleanliness of some of the modern death metal acts, either that or the all-out destruction of a band such as Decrepit Birth that just was able to release a tech death wizard piece of music that has just absolutely insane vocals, this may come off as a little bit different, either that or a little bit discouraging. And that's by no fault of the vocals themselves. This is one that certainly takes that old school charm of bands such as Death and Atheist. If you remember from some of Atheist's earliest tomes, or even Cynic, it wasn't always a very clean endeavor, and really sort of grasps onto that idea. Now, Purpose Seeker, which is the 6th track on this album, may go down as my favorite song of this week, or perhaps my late entry for my favorite song of July, because this is just a phenomenal piece that has a very catchy and very straightforward introduction that does still have all of that sort of strange, charm to it, almost like they are, some people may call this avant-garde. They'd be very wrong, by the way, but it has a very unique prospect all its own to it, and I love the fact that after this very addicting riff, you immediately get into your vocalization, you get into your chaos, and then a lot of these tracks will have portions, be it in the middle or in this case near the end, where softness resonates, or they are able to transition themselves into a separate portion of the track, almost as though they gave these songs different parts, almost like the 3 parts that are traditionally seen for a drama. It is something that is pretty awesome to behold, and also another great piece of praise I have to give this album is that These are tracks. There are no songs on this disc that eclipse the 5-minute mark, but it feels so much like you have been listening for a lot longer. Traditionally, that is a bad thing. And on this 35-minute album, that would be almost a damning piece of bad evidence. However, it would be just that. Bad evidence. Tampered evidence. Because instead, these songs feel like they are giving you so much value and that whenever you hear all of this, you're digesting it a little bit slower of a scale. Time is slowing down a little bit for you, but you're enjoying yourself as you are sort of being assaulted by all of these different ideas and these extra concepts that are coming in, that instead of feeling like they're making the overall composition very claustrophobic, they feel like they're expanding the room and giving it a little bit more value. Almost like taking 4 walls that are completely blank and placing a lot of garnish on them, or opening a window, or installing a window, I guess in this case. Whatever you want to use to describe it, a track such as Purpose Seeker really displays that very nicely, but it's also very well displayed on the very last track, Utopian. This is a 4-minute and 40-second long assault that delivers on all counts, and once again is able to do that sort of expansion of the composition that I love so much, and I know that a lot of you do as well. It offers a lot for the money. This is a disc that kind of came out of nowhere. It was sort of, something that you identify on your radar that you want to explore and maybe consider, but you may never get to it. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, get to it. Make the time for it. It's only about a 36-minute long disc, so it's not going to take up too much of your day. And it's one that you're going to revisit because it has a lot of great value that's attached to it. So this is a 21 out of 30, a very strong disc. If there's any flaw on this whatsoever, is that there are some tracks that just feel so much more vast and sort of well constructed, whereas some others feel like they lag a little bit. Maybe perhaps it's because they don't have quite as much going for them. But either way, this is a great effort. This is a band that I think has the opportunity to really lead the way for a new realm of heavy metal that speaks in this variety and sort of tells stories with this tongue. I like what these guys do, and if you guys check them out, I think you will as well. And once you do, let me know what you think in the comments below about Contrarian's To Perceive Is to Suffer, because I want to know, and I'm sure the band wants to as well. My name is CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks again. Take care.